All right, we need to talk about a book. And look, this isn't just any book. It's one of the most notoriously difficult, incredibly dense, but maybe the most important book in the entire history of Western philosophy. A book that literally rewrote reality as we know it. And the crazy part? It was written in this absolute frenzy.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Less than 5 months. We're not talking about a quick novel here. We're talking about an 800-page beast of a book that was a complete takedown of centuries, literally centuries of philosophical thought. This wasn't some casual project. No, this was an emergency.
So you gotta ask, right? What was the big emergency? What problem was so massive, so urgent, that it demanded a 2,000-year-old debate get solved in under half a year? Well, to get that, you have to realize that by Kant's time, philosophy had hit a wall, a dead end. It had basically argued itself into a corner, and it was completely broken.
The book we're talking about, of course, is The Critique of Pure Reason. And yeah, it has a reputation for being, let's say, impossible to read. But the reason it's so important is that its whole purpose was to solve one of the oldest problems humanity has ever grappled with, a problem that had been simmering for a very, very long time.
You see, Kant didn't just pull this idea out of thin air. It's the culmination of this long, unbroken chain of thought that stretches all the way back to ancient Greece. It's like a relay race. You really can't get Kant if you don't get Hume, and you can't get Hume without knowing who came before him. Each one of these brilliant minds was building on the last, pushing this one single central question to its absolute breaking point.
And what was that big question? It was simple, really. Where does knowledge actually come from? Like, how can we be sure about anything? For centuries, philosophy was basically split into two rival teams, two camps that were at war over the answer.
Okay, so in one corner, you've got Team Reason, the rationalists. Think René Descartes. Their whole deal was that true knowledge is already inside us. It's innate. We just have to use pure logic to unlock it. Then in the other corner, you had Team Experience, the empiricists. Their big player was John Locke. And he said, nope, the mind starts out as a blank slate, a tabula rasa, and every single thing we know gets built from what our senses tell us. And for about 200 years, these guys were just stuck, a total stalemate.
And then David Hume walks onto the scene. Now, Hume was firmly on Team Experience, but he was the kind of guy who took an idea and pushed it all the way to its most extreme, most terrifying conclusion. He basically created a logic bomb that was about to blow the entire foundation of science and certainty to bits.
And Hume's argument? It's so simple, it's scary. He says, okay, let's say Team Experience is right. Everything we know comes from our senses. Now think about cause and effect, right? You see one billiard ball smack into another, and the second one moves. Simple. But Hume asks, do you ever actually see the cause? Do you see the causation? No. You just see one event and then another event right after it. That feeling, that certainty that one thing caused the other, that's not out there in the world. Hume said it's just a habit in our brains. And if cause and effect, the bedrock of all science, is just a feeling, well, then all of science is built on sand.
And just like that, boom, game over. Hume's skepticism was a checkmate. Philosophy was totally broken. You couldn't rely on pure reason, but now, thanks to Hume, you couldn't trust your own experience either. There was literally no solid ground left to stand on. This is the crisis that famously woke Kant from what he called his dogmatic slumber and kick-started that insane 5-month writing marathon.
So Kant looked at this mess and had this incredible realization. Maybe Team Reason and Team Experience were both wrong because they were asking the wrong question from the very beginning. He decided he wasn't going to pick a side. He was going to flip the whole chessboard over. And his idea was so radical, so game-changing, he named it after the biggest paradigm shift in scientific history.
You remember Copernicus, right? For thousands of years, everyone thought the sun and stars revolved around the Earth. Copernicus came along and said, wait a minute, what if we've got it backwards? What if we're the ones moving? It made all the math work. It just clicked. Well, Kant said, let's do that for philosophy.
And this is it. This is the big twist. For 2,000 years, the basic assumption was that our job is to figure out the world out there. Our knowledge has to match up with objects. We're just passive observers. Kant completely flips it. He says, hold on. Hitherto it has been assumed that all our knowledge must conform to objects. But what if we suppose that objects must conform to our knowledge? What if our mind isn't just a passive mirror, but an active force that structures reality as we experience it?
Okay, here's a modern way to get your head around this. Think of it like this. Before Kant, everyone thought the mind was like a camera, just trying its best to take an accurate picture of the world. Kant comes along and says, no. The mind isn't a camera, it's an operating system. It comes with built-in software right out of the box. And that software includes fundamental concepts like space, time, and, this is the big one, cause and effect. We don't learn these from experience. They are the rules, the framework that our mind uses to make experience possible at all.
Kant himself puts it perfectly here. You see, Hume was kind of right. We don't find cause and effect out there in the world. And Kant's big aha moment was realizing why. It's because we put it there. It's part of our mental operating system. Our brains project these rules onto the raw data coming from our senses so we can make sense of it all. So causality isn't just some flimsy habit like Hume thought. It's a fundamental rule of the OS.
Okay, so what's the big takeaway from all this? What did this massive revolution actually do? Well, by turning the focus from the world back onto the mind itself, Kant didn't just fix an old debate. He drew a completely new map for what we can know, with clear boundaries and whole new territories to explore.
And this new map had some huge implications. First, it totally saved science. By proving that causality is a necessary structure of our own minds, he gave it a rock-solid foundation that Hume's skepticism couldn't touch. Second, he drew a clear line in the sand. He showed us the limits of what we can know, the world as we experience it, versus what we can't know, the world of things in themselves. And finally, and this is so clever, by fencing in what reason can know for sure, he actually protected things like morality, God, and free will. He famously said he had to deny knowledge in order to make room for faith, basically putting those big questions in a realm that science can't prove or disprove.
So when you boil it all down, Kant's Copernican revolution leads us to this pretty mind-blowing place. It means we aren't just passive viewers watching a movie of the universe. We are active participants. We are the co-authors of the reality we experience every single day. And that leaves us with a pretty deep and maybe a little unsettling question to ponder.